Welcome to the Minneapolis Sailing Center's Demystifying Sailboat Racing. We will be discussing how to understand the racing rules and view common scenarios you might encounter on the race course. Sailboat racing has been a part of Minneapolis life since the early 1900s. Initially a hard-to-access sport, MSC has been working since 1989 to open this one-of-a-kind sport to the entire community by providing lessons, scholarship, and outreach opportunities. In this video, we are going to try and make sense of the racing rules of sailing. U.S. sailing has been the governing body of the sport since the U.S. Congress passed the Olympic and Amateur Sports Act of 1978. Every 3 years, U.S. sailing updates the rules. We are on the first year of this 3-year cycle. This video will use the newest rule book, but will not focus on any of the changes to the rules for the 21 to 24 cycle. The rule book can seem quite dense. The good news is that for people who are just getting started in racing, you really only need to focus on the definitions, Part 1 and Part 2, about 12 pages. Think of the race committee as the refs of the sport. They're responsible for setting the course, making sure the start is fair, and recording the finishes. This is the standard windward-leeward course with a starting line in the middle. At MSC, the starting line is usually closed, meaning you can only pass the line when you start and finish, as shown in this example of a boat making it all the way around the standard windward-leeward course we use at MSC. Members are encouraged to participate in racing on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Registering for the races is all done on our member portal. To access the portal, go to sailmpls.org and click the member portal box found on the home screen. Log into your account. In the top left corner of your screen is the Events drop-down menu. Click on the Events drop-down menu and click View Events Calendar. A calendar will pop up showing the current month. You can navigate using the arrows in the top left corner to change the month. Find a date that works for you and select which boat you will be sailing. Saturdays are going to be scored and results posted for the more competitive sailors, while sailors of all abilities are welcome to the more casual Wednesday evening race series. In this example, I select the ensign sailing on the 9th. Read the description to see what time to show up. Also remember, you do not need to reserve a boat in addition to signing up for this membership event. Click the Sign Up button. Next, you are going to select the number of tickets or the number of people you will be sailing with during the race. If you are new to racing and would like to see what it's all about, you are welcome to come on any Wednesday evening and see if there are any boats in need of crew. You can also sign up for the new Wednesday night racing class, where you learn keelboat racing skills as you take on the race course with an experienced MSC staff member. I can now confirm my registration by scrolling all the way down to the bottom of the page to make sure I show up in the participants table. This is also where I can get a sneak peek at my competitors for the week. That's it. I'm all signed up for racing. Now for the fun part, the rule book roundup. We're going to focus on common scenarios you'll encounter during the start, the upwind, and the downwind. Let's start with the start. A sailboat race starts with a starting sequence. During the sequence, the sailboats are jockeying for position while the committee boat counts down from 3 minutes. The objective is to cross the line as soon as the 3 minutes expires. Now let's talk about establishing overlap. When a boat establishes overlap, their bow crosses the stern of the boat windward to them. In this case, blue is establishing overlap with yellow and green. Let's take a look at some common scenarios of Rule 11 and overlap at the start. The first example is luffing at the line. In this example, blue is heading up green to get the advantage at the start. In this example, green is closing the door on blue to make sure that blue isn't going to make its way between the committee boat and green. In this example, blue leaves the door open. Blue cannot head up green into the committee boat because of Rule 16.1, changing course. A quick what not to do. Barging. Barging is when you try to force yourself in the hole between the committee boat and the rest of the fleet. In this example, the green boat is barging. Let's talk about port versus starboard, Rule 10, at the start. The dangers of the port approach. You can see here the pink boat is breaking Rule 10, where The port boat gives way to starboard. They try to cut off the whole fleet and collide with blue. So what's a common scenario in Rule 10? The pink boat is going to have to duck the entire fleet. Now we're going to discuss the upwind, or the beat as it's sometimes referred to. The most common scenario you're going to come to in the upwind is your port versus starboard, Rule 10. In this example, yellow breaks Rule 10 by colliding with blue. Can you think of some common scenarios on what yellow could do in that situation? In this example, yellow is going to duck behind blue to avoid. And in this example, yellow is going to tack to avoid blue. Next up are some common scenarios of Rule 11 and overlap going upwind. Green and blue cannot force yellow or red to tack. The red boat is in control here since they have overlap over the entire fleet. Green and blue need to wait for their moment to head up, slow down, and find that clean air. To go from upwind to downwind, we have to round a mark. We're going to now discuss Rule 18, mark rounding. The first thing we need to understand is the zone. The zone is a 3-boat length circle around the mark. The length of the boat is the boat you're sailing. What needs to be determined when the windward boat enters the zone is if there's overlap with the boat to leeward. If there is not overlap with the boat to leeward when the windward boat enters the zone, they are not required to give the leeward boat room. If there is overlap when the windward vessel enters the zone, they are required to give room to the leeward vessel. A quick what not to do when rounding the windward mark. Flying in on port. Here green breaks Rule 10 because Rule 18 does not apply to boats on opposite tacks. Here's a common scenario where Rule 10 applies at the mark. We have the green boat coming in on port. They are going to need to duck the starboard boats that are rounding the mark. Lastly, we're going to discuss the downwind. Let's take a look at some common scenarios for Rule 10, port versus starboard. In this example, we have yellow on port, and they are going to break Rule 10 by colliding with blue. Yellow can head up and duck the starboard boat, or yellow can jibe to become parallel. Here are some common scenarios for Rule 11, windward versus leeward. In this example, red is in control. Red has overlap over all of the boats. Red can use Rule 11 to head up the entire fleet if they would like. Now on to the downwind mark rounding. Remember, Rule 18 is the mark rounding rule. In this example, there is no overlap when yellow enters the zone. Therefore, they do not need to give blue room to go around the mark. Blue is going to have to head down and go around the mark behind yellow. Part of the clear ahead, clear astern overlap definition is that boats also overlap when a boat between them overlaps both. This is important on the downwind. The inside boat is always going to get mark room. Like in this example, where the blue inside boat gets mark room from yellow, who gets mark room from green, who gets mark room from red. Thank you for watching this racing rules presentation from the Minneapolis Sailing Center. We look forward to seeing you out on the water this summer, and remember, racing's open to all members.